experiment was about the simple pendulum. We had to find the period or the time for 10 oscillations for 2 swings with 2 different lengths. We then divided the time by 10 to get our period. This was our measured period. After that, we compared it to the calculated period we got from the equation period equal 2 pi multiplied by the square root of the length divided by the gravitational force. By using the two periods, we were able to determine the percent error. We also proved by our calculation that the swing with the shorter length gave us the smaller periods.
The purpose of this experiment is to determine the coefficient of kinetic friction. Kinetic friction is the force resisting the relative motion of two objects sliding against each other. In our experiment, the two objects were Abdullah's body and the slide. The force of the kinetic friction works against Abdullah's relative motion and slowed his acceleration down the slide. We use Newton's second law of motion in our calculations. First, we applied Newton's second law along the x-axis, so we were able to determine the friction force. Then we applied Newton's second law on the y-axis, so we were able to find the normal force. By knowing that the force of friction is equal to the coefficient of friction multiplied by the normal force, we were able to determine the coefficient of the kinetic friction. The third experiment was about the torque. We had Abdullah and Shah sitting on opposite sides of the seesaw. Abdullah's weight is 53.5 kilograms, while Shah's weight is 83.8 kilograms. Our goal was to reach an equilibrium point between the two. Since Shah has a heavier mass than Abdullah, he has to move closer to the pivot point in order for them to be balanced. After that, we measure the distance between Shah's body and the pivot point. Then we calculated this distance by setting the torque counterclockwise equal to the torque clockwise and solve for the distance. Now we have the two values of the distance, the calculated one and the measured one. So we solve for the percent error.
this experiment, our goal was to find the acceleration of two objects in a free fall. We used Shah's keys and a small stone to perform this experiment. First, we measured the time required for the object to touch the ground. We did 3 different trials for each object and took the average to find our acceleration. We used one of the kinematic equations to determine the acceleration by knowing the time and the height. This equation was delta x equal 1/2 v initial plus at squared. After finding the two accelerations, we then went ahead and took the percent difference of them.